Hello guys, how are you doing? Okay, so I hope you're doing good. And so in today's video, what I'm going to show you is what a state is and what a use state is and how we can use it and how it's relevant, right? Okay, so let's jump into the video. Okay, so first of all, I have an empty folder called as use state. Okay, and in this folder, let me first open my terminal so that you can see that it's empty. And now what I'll do is I'll simply run npx create react app in the same folder, right? So just give this some moments and I'll be right back. Localhost 3000, I have hello world printed in the center. That's why, because I have changed it, I've revamped it a little bit. Okay, yours will be different because yours will have the initial setup. And by the way, I haven't removed these app.test and these other files. Okay, so now let's get to the chase. So the thing is state, right? So what a state is? So state is nothing but something which holds the data, right? So the primary definition of a state is that something which holds our data, right? So now you'll be like, why we're using state? Because I can hold my data like this, right? And there is no problem with it, because I can still use my data in this place, and I can see that my data is being printed. Why? Because this is JavaScript. Okay, we are allowed to use any JavaScript method in here, right? So now the thing is, what then if we can use this? Okay, because the problem, why we need data, right? We need data so that our state is constantly updating itself, so that the user can see the updated data, not the old data, right? Okay, let's say you're making a clock and you're showing some data. And what is the data? The data is the time. Okay, so user wants to see the updated time, because that's how time works, and you want to see the current time, right? Because otherwise what will happen is, because the time is like 5 o'clock and your app is showing like time way behind, let's say 4 o'clock. That doesn't make any sense, because then your application, no matter how good it is, how beautiful it looks, it's the it doesn't work. No one wants to use that app because it does not gets updated over the time. Okay, especially like a app like where you're making a clock, and the definition by clock is it will get updated at least like in 1 second. Okay, so now let's get back to the app. So now if we can use the data, but what is the problem with this kind of approach is that it will not update our React app. And what do I mean by that is, because in React what happens is that you request the index.html only one time from the server. Okay, so clients, your browser sends a request to the server, and then your server serves index.html page, and that's it. There is no connection between client and server. I mean, there is connection when you have network calls. Otherwise, for serving index.html, there is no connection at all. And that's the benefit of React, because that reduces the request and response game. And okay, so now what happens is, if you want to keep your data updated, if you want to keep your website updated with that data, that has to be changed over the time. So there you cannot use this approach, because this will not cause your application to re-render itself. Okay, so the point re-render is very important, because that is the core idea of a state. Okay, so let me not waste any more time, and I'll tell you the difference between a simple variable like const, let, and the difference between state and these things. Okay, so what happens is, when you are using a state, it's still storing the data, which can be a number or string or boolean. But the extra thing it does is, it's re-renders your application, it re-renders your component. Okay, which re-renders means it refreshes your component so that it has a new data. Okay, so basically it refreshes your application. Okay, application is the wrong word, component will be the correct word. Okay, alright, so what state does is, state basically helps you to refresh your component without telling you that I have refreshed your data. But if you can somehow, do some console logs, and you'll see that you're actually updating your data, right? Okay, so let me just remove this line and I'll simply use, so first of all, when you are using, so the syntax that you use to make a state is how, let's say I'll call it my data, or let's let's be very simple and use a color. Okay, so now I will use my state, and the way you define a state in a function component, which is which has a function keyword with it. So you use UseState. Okay, UseState is basically a hook that React provides us, and I can say this is like auto import. It auto imported itself from React, and right. So like the color, and here I pass a default value, right? So if I use React, okay, so you can see that React uses something called as React initial string, right? Oh, sorry, initial state. So initial state means what will be the value of color, when the app loads, right? So let's say I pass their color red, and now what I'll do is I'll simply say my favorite color is, now you can pass color. Okay, that's simple JavaScript. Now what will happen, you can see my favorite color is red. Okay, but that's but there's nothing very special about it, because you can see that in the last example when we saw that how I can use my data, that's the way I use my data. Okay, and I can still define a data called as red, and instead of color I'll simply use my data, and still works the same, right? So the difference comes in but when I'll make let's say I'll use a simple variable, simple function called as set color, and what set color will do is set color will simply change my, okay, no, not before that. I'm changing my data to color, and now it's the my favorite color is red. Okay, now the thing which I told you earlier about updating a state is, that's how it works is, let's say in my div I just don't have this thing. What I have is, inside my app I have a button which says like update me to pink, right? And just below that I'll have a label which let me remove this HTML for, and it will simply just say what color it is, right? And I can see that I have a update me to pink, and does not look any good, but that's it, let's just work with it. So what I'll do, I'll simply remove this class, or okay, let's keep it, let's just use BR, so that okay, right? And let me just zoom in a bit, so you can see that now I have a button and which says that update me to pink, right? Okay, so what I want to do is, now I want to show you like how you can update the value of the color, right? So now what I just want to, first of all, let me console.log, so that I can see that what is my color is, what value my color is holding, and you can see that it has a value of red. Alright, so now what I want to do is, in my button, when I click on it, I want to run a function, right? And that function, what it will do is, it will simply update my color value. Okay, so I'll say that update color. Okay, and what is this? This will be a function. Okay, so a little bit of ES6. Okay, it does not take any argument. What it will do is it will simply update my color. Okay, so now you can see that if it was just like data, let's say this is my let data. So the way I would change my data is by just simply doing this: data equals pink, right? And if I use data over there, you can see the problem with it. I'm clicking update me to pink, and this data is getting updated, which is, you know, nice. This data is definitely getting updated, but since this data is not a state, this is not refreshing this component or this JSX, which means the data in this label is still holding that red value, not a pink value. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to change my color value, right? So let's say I want to change my color value, which is to pink. Oh, now you can see that uncaught type error, and the error is assignment to a constant variable, right? And the error, why the error is occurring is because that is not the way how you update a state. Okay, so that is not how we update a state, because to update a state we have given with a function which is called as a setter function, right? You can see the react.setState action. Okay, so now what I will do is I'll simply pass the color that I want my color to have, which is pink. Now let me refresh my value. Oh, sorry, I'm using data over there. I need to use color over there. Now you can see I've refreshed. You can see update me to pink, updated it to pink, right? Cool. So that's how we use a state, and that's how we update a state by using a setter function, just like a set color, right? Okay. Which is very common. Like I've seen many people do this. It's not a mistake. It's basically one of the feature of React, which React gives you, is something like okay. So now if you see this line 7, you'll see that I've used like I'm setting my color state to pink. So now if I just simply log my color out, I should see pink, right? So this should see this should print pink, right? That's what I'm expecting when I press this button. Okay, because I have in my update color I'm consoling this color which should hold pink, right? So when I press this button, it's a magic. Okay, you can see that my state has my values updated, but in the console I can see that the value which is coming from line 8, right, and this is still printing red. And why it's happening? If I again print it, it will print pink, because now it's been some time. So the reason why it's happening is because React, when you are telling that set color to pink, so what React is like very lazy, and it's basically saying like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to set your color to pink, but I'm not going to do it just right now, because I have some other things to manage. So I'll schedule it. So I'm basically scheduling it for some time later. Okay, so basically he's saying it's saying I'll do it. Okay, I'm going to do it definitely, but just not now. Okay, so this so you can see that we are consoling it out, but my application looks fine. Okay, let me refresh it. You can see that it updates like red to pink, and no one noticed that. But let's say when you have to do some calculation where you're still having red value, but you wanted a pink value. So for that kind of task, when you have a bigger project, so in that case it might look something like a pain in the rear. Okay, so for that cases you might have to come up with a solution where we're using multiple states, or you're using some workaround, like using some extra variables, and just to move things around a bit. Alright guys, thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. And So this is basically my first video which I'm posting, and I was really nervous and I was so conscious and I did a lot of mistake. That's all right, because it's as far as the first video goes, I think that was pretty good. So yeah, in the next video maybe we'll be talking about use effect and use refs and uh, different hooks we have in React, and later down the road we'll be talking about reducers, redux sagas. That's one of my favorite topic. So make sure you drop a like if it was really a value addition to your life, and thank you. I mean, see you.